freaking first cut. Golly. What's going on, YouTube? DFS preview for this week's Memorial, going tier by tier through the pricing, deciding who to play, who to fade. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. We'll jump into it right now. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, joined by Sia Nejad. Sia, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm still riding the Sam Burns high. What a great sweat that was. What a great tournament that was, as far as I'm concerned. I'm so happy to be talking about the Memorial, though. I've got a lot of interesting plays here that I want to get y'all's opinion on.
Well, we will certainly do that. Greg DuCharme is here. And Greg, might I say, you're looking very dapper. That's a very nice color of shirt on you.
Oh, why? Thank you, Rick. Yes, this is my red from Memorial Day. I hope everybody's having a great Memorial Day. And I'm very excited for the Memorial, as Sia said. And Sia, by the way, what a call last week. It's just fantastic. I've really enjoyed all the Twitter activity about it.
Yeah, the Twitter activity was probably the best part, if I'm being honest. But the
Absolutely.
sweat, listen, the sweat coming down the stretch, you know, when he got in the house at 9 under, I'm like, yeah, this can probably happen, but 5 guys have to crash and burn as opposed to only 4. And as it was starting to unfold, none of those guys having really started the 12th hole yet, and that 12th through 15th was going to be a problem for everybody. I was like, yeah, there's an outside shot here. And then as it got closer, I realized that the odds for Burns started getting better and better until he was the favorite when Scotty was on the 17th. And I was like, oh man, this could definitely happen. But yeah, it ended up happening. I got a little lucky, I guess, but it was pretty cool.
Luck was not part of it. Don't worry about that at all. That is all skill, my friends. Congratulations. The fans, you out there listening, you out there watching, hopefully on YouTube, we need your picks before, what are we going? 10 a.m. Eastern time, Tuesday morning. We're going early again. So that's good because the content will be out earlier. It'll be able to live a bit longer, but we need your one and done selection. So the link is in the description right now. You can go and get your vote in, and you can continue to make progress up our board. Greg, it wasn't a great one and done for really anybody last week. I think Jacob was the big winner with like $250,000, but we got to bounce back. We got to make a move here.
Yeah, we do. The only positive to take away is that our leader didn't get anything. But unfortunately, nobody took advantage of it. So, yeah, all in all, not a great week. Jacob's been playing great, though. Well, I mean, a really solid play from him. So, got to give him credit.
Yeah, Jacob's been good, although he might run out of holes to mark. He might just run out of time here. We'll see. Gentlemen, this week is indeed the Memorial presented by, what are they going with now? Workday?
Workday. Yep. And, maybe that comes into play. With one of our yeah, I mean, look, it's happened twice so far. We're only one away from a trend.
Yeah, he's 2 for 2, right? He won the WGC Workday, and he won I think it was just called the Workday Championship. It was the week before this event in 2020. They went back-to-back weeks at Muirfield Village, right?
Workday Charity Classic?
That's the one.
Yeah, I think that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Right. Right here at Memorial. So, at Muirfield Village. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. I don't know if this is Colin's year. I don't know, but he certainly has the ability to go 3 for 3.
All right, well, let's talk about this week, and I'll share my screen here. This is my website, RickRunGood.com. It's all the visuals that you'll see on YouTube. And see a Muirfield Village, it's Jack's place, and because it's Jack, and because it's an invitational, and because this is one of the best courses that we have on the schedule, you get a really, really good field. And that's exactly what we have this week. Strength of field, I think last year was like 602. Probably thinking about something similar this time around.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, as soon as you see the DFS slate, it gets your attention really quick, especially when you look at the 8K range and you see all the talent in there. You're like, oh, okay, this is a very, very loaded field, and it's going to take a good golfer to really conquer this tournament because it's going to test your all-around game. We've talked about that a little bit. We did at the PGA Championship, and of course at the Masters, and some of these other courses. That there are no layups here. You know, this is going to be a tough test from a driving accuracy standpoint, from an approach game standpoint, especially with the longer irons. And then the around the green game is going to be huge here. So again, this is one of those where I'm already of the mindset where from a DFS standpoint, I really want to be careful with the lower end guys, because I've noticed over the last, well, really this whole season, but especially over the last few weeks, a lot of 6-for-6 lineups have gotten through. And because of the difficulty of the course, completely crashed and burned. Like two of the guys that were 7K or 6K that made it through are just shooting terrible numbers on Saturday and Sunday. So I think you should really be cognizant of that when you're crafting your lineup. How many cheapies do you want in there? Are they going to survive Saturday and Sunday, even if they do, in fact, survive Saturday and Sunday?
Before I forget, min-priced Adam Schenk last week. Rallied on Friday. I think he was 3 under on Friday, but missed the cut by a shot. That was devastating to me.
Yeah. But you know, what's funny, we talked about him because we thought it was a slight misprice, but we also talked about Smotherman. He's a really good example of a guy who kind of crashed and burned on Saturday and especially Sunday. I liked Smotherman. I thought he was a great course fit with the approach and the putting game, but I do think you need to contextualize that with this week as well. There are those low end guys that you might think are great and they might make the cut for you, but how are they doing on Saturday and Sunday? I think it's super important to envision that as well.
Yeah, certainly. And Greg, I love what Jack has done with Muirfield Village, where you simultaneously off the tee, you have generous fairways. They're fairly wide, but if you miss them, you will be punished. And then you're going to have to hit a great second shot. If you miss the green, also punished. Just these kind of diabolical spots you can get yourself in around the greens. And then, of course, we know after the 2020 version of this event, they basically redid every single green, either completely redone or recontoured. That was the infamous ripping up the greens right behind the final group on Sunday. They got started immediately on that renovation.
Yes. And so some of the changes that they've made in this, I mean, a couple holes have been lengthened in the latest restoration. Some greens have been softened to add hole locations, which I'm very curious to see how that plays out. This is a course where short game has been very important. As you can see right there on your model, there's a 4 next to the around the green play. And it's been quite important. But with some of the softer greens, some new greens, some greens have been moved. Has the short game been softened at all? 14 of the greens were changed to some degree, whether they were moved, completely redone, or they, softened a portion, like they changed the back left of the 18th green. So there's some pretty significant changes. Fairways have been moved to bring the.
Oh, bless
excuse
you.
Me. I couldn't hold that in.
Live sneeze.
Wow. Yeah, I apologize.
I'm always worried.
Excuse me.
I'm always scared about that.
I don't think I've ever done that before.
I sneeze.
It's good luck.
Too.
Yeah, I guess I should have passed the ball a little quicker.
And when I sneeze, it's like 6 in a row. So like we would not have continued anytime.
Yeah, we may have more coming, but Rick, we can take over for you. If you sneeze once, we'll know there's more coming, and there may be for me. Just keep your eye on it if you're watching on YouTube. But so yeah, they made some changes here. Some of the driving areas were pinched in, so driving accuracy I really do think is important. The takeaway that I have is that tee to green is kind of your bread and butter here. That's really the area that you should lean on, because although around the green play is really important, I think the penalties for missing in your ball striking are more severe here than other golf courses. So I really like the all-encompassing tee to green play and watching out for how guys are getting it done. I don't want to weigh too much into around the green play because it's difficult tee to green.
I love the way you said that, and I want to reiterate it, Greg. The penalty for missing off the tee or on an approach is more penal here? Is that I think that's the best way to look.
Penal, severe.
Yeah. I love that. Awesome stuff. Okay, I can't wait. Let's jump into the cheat sheet. We'll go tier by tier here, but first we are going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
Shall we begin?
Step 1,
2, 3. That's perfectly normal. It's an honor.
here we go.
Why are you so handsome?
My dad was a weatherman. That sounds big. It's been on my vision board for years.
the $10,000 range actually extends into the $11,000 range with Jon Rahm at 11,100, Rory McIlroy 10.9, Patrick Cantlay 10.7, Colin Morikawa at 10.4, and we rounded out with Xander Schauffele at $10,200. Sia Nejad, great field, great guys at the top. Let's start splitting some hairs.
Yeah, and that's what we're always doing in the elite range. I do want to just offer the disclaimer that I usually offer, which is feel free to start in the 9K range. I even have a lineup that started in the 8K range because I believe in so many of the players there, and I think that'll just be an interesting lineup construction. With that said, I guess there's a couple of guys that stick out to me. Jon Rahm, obviously, I mean, he's won this tournament back-to-back years. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge to Patrick Cantlay, but obviously, Jon Rahm won last year and he had to withdraw in round 4. The thing I'm glad you pulled this up. If you're not watching on YouTube, you should, because on RickRunGood.com, we did notice that the approach play as of late for Jon Rahm has been a little shaky. I'm not super worried about it, but I do think it's noteworthy because we don't usually see those swings and misses, although the players probably he was in the wrong wave there, but still it hasn't been the elite approach play or around the green game that we've normally seen with Jon Rahm. I think he'll probably be pretty popular, so I may not play him if that's the case, but he's certainly my favorite on the board here.
Jon Rahm, Greg, has indeed lost strokes on approach in 3 of 5. One of those, the Masters, he was a small positive. The around the green struggles go back to the start of 2022. That's been a common thread for Jon Rahm, and they do continue. How much of that is a concern? Because when you've got the highest price tag and a lot of expectations, you want to feel comfortable putting that guy on in your lineup.
Absolutely. And it's a real concern for me. And because he's the highest priced player and we expect ownership to be high, I'm very comfortable fading Jon Rahm this week. And the reason is, if you watch the PGA Championship, you can look at the numbers. If he lost 2.5 strokes around the green, but at the same time, he hit some really sloppy short game shots. I wonder how much work he's put in. I'm sure it's some, but it's been a very different formulation than what we've seen coming in. I mean, if you look back in 2021, entering this event, he was 69th around the green. And then you look at what he's done tee to green. Still around the green. In 2020, he was 56th around the green, 34th in scrambling. It was a much better short game than it is now coming in. So that's of concern for me without question. And because he's the highest priced player, because that ownership is expected to be high, and because there's so many great options behind him, I'm comfortable fading Jon Rahm. I know it's risky, and I'm not going to fault you if you play him, but I'm certainly comfortable fading him.
One fun little nugget on Jon Rahm. He gained more strokes last year, 21 of them in 3 rounds, than he did the year that he won it in 2020 when he gained 17. That's how dominant he was last year.
Yeah. Amazing. And look, I don't know if that plays into it, but you're coming back to a place with bittersweet memories. And I wonder what that's going to do to Jon Rahm emotionally. I try not to put that into play too much in my DFS lineups, but if he's been a little more frustrated this year than in years past. And I wonder if, especially last year, his attitude was so good. You could write a book about it. I mean, he handled all these situations with such grace and class, and it showed in his play. But this year, he seems to be much more frustrated. And I wonder if he's going to, over rev the engine a little bit here this week.
Okay, Greg, I'm going to bounce this right back to you here because I asked you specifically about Rahm, but I don't want to put those constraints on you here. The 10K range is wide open. Where would you like to go?
I love what I'm seeing out of Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
Right below him. I love it. I mean, he's only lost strokes off the tee once this year. That was at the Valero Texas Open. I think his mind was elsewhere, being the week before the Masters. But what I really like is what he's done around the green. And the PGA and the Wells Fargo, he lost less than a stroke around the green. But before that, it was really quite good. He gained in every single event all the way back to the Northern Trust of last year. So it's been really good around the green. And I think that's kind of the change. That's the difference that brings Rory back to 2014 Rory. And he's had some pretty good results here as well. but the biggest struggle for him at Memorial has been the around the green play. And I think it's improved dramatically this year. So I'm big on Rory in that regard.
So here you go. I'm showing you the results for Rory back to 2010 at the Memorial, and Greg's absolutely right. Where he tends to lose frequently and a lot of strokes is around the green. Now, if you look at what he's doing this year, right here, currently in the midst of his best around the green season of his career, that starts to add up. Things you love to see. Okay, we've got Rory, we've got Rahm. Sia, who else out of this $10,000 range would we feel comfortable with?
There's two guys that I think are really interesting that I want to get a couple of opinions on here. One is, and I ranted about this guy for like 2 full minutes on the Thursday recap show, so it's funny that I'm even bringing him up, but Colin Morikawa, who obviously we know his ball striking acumen. We know that the putter hasn't been good, and that I mentioned about a week ago how he put a line on his ball and he sort of changed things up after the Zurich because he and Hovland talked about it and he just decided he wanted to do that. The thing is, as much as I'm scared off with the putter, not only did he gain last year here with the renovations in mind, 12 strokes tee to green, but he also gained 5 with the putter. So it speaks to the fact that maybe he's coming back to a place where he actually has some confidence with the putting, and whether he goes back to his old way or he still has a line on the ball. I think there's an argument to be made that if you pair the ball striking with him just being more confident coming here with the putter, I do think he's interesting. The other guy that I want to bring up, he's a metrics monster, Xander Schauffele. I mean, if you look at his recent history, if you look at his course history, and if you look at his metrics, there's no reason not to play him. For me, the only reason not to play him is every time I play him, he lets me down. But again, I get him wrong. Some people get him right. Xander Schauffele looks like a guy from a pure metric standpoint. He looks really, really good.
Gained across the board at the PGA Championship, gained across the board at the AT&T Byron Nelson. That is something that Xander does do fairly often. But Greg, we've done it. We've named 4 of the 5 names in the $10,000 range, and we haven't talked about the guy who's won this 2 out of the last 3 years, Patrick Cantlay, $10,700. I'm under the impression this is not a major championship, so maybe we should just fire up Patty Ice.
Yeah, he is definitely in play. There are some concerns, right? His short game, his putting has kind of fallen off a little bit, and it's been better in the past. If you look at what he did last year, he was really good around the green. And in 2019, he was first in scrambling coming in. His short game was excellent at that time. And he's lost mildly in his last 3 starts. The putting has not been what it was earlier in the year. That's a concern. But I think something happens when Patrick Cantlay comes to Memorial, and he is absolutely an option to play. And I'd put the PGA Championship in a separate bucket, like you said. His biggest problem in his game is handling major championships, and like you said, this is not one. So I'd love to know what his ownership's going to be, if there's an edge you can get there. But both he and Xander, I think, are great plays.
What do you think his ownership is, Sia? How does it compare to the rest of this $10,000 range? Because a lot of good names here. A lot of good names.
This is going to be such an interesting case study because, he won 2 out of 3. I mean, obviously, even if you given Rahm the win last year, it would have been a second place most likely. So, I mean, I'll give him some credit there. I think he could be either the second or either the lowest or the second lowest owned guy in this range. I think a lot of people are going to go to Colin. They just want to play Colin here. A lot of people are going to go to Rahm and McIlroy for good reason. And then it's going to be Xander and Cantlay. And then if you just match up Xander and Cantlay in terms of just looking at their metrics, and by the way, looking at their course history, it's not like Xander's is bad relative to Cantlay's. It's just not nearly as good. I think Cantlay might be the lowest owned. I do.
Wow.
I could be wrong.
No, I think it's possible because he is like that sandwich pricing where you can just go up and spend more for Rahm and Rory, or you save the dollars on Morikawa or Xander, or you start in the 9K range. It's kind of an awkward pricing situation for him. I think it'll be like 14, 15% owned. That's what we'll see. But
he's a great play. I mean, even regardless of that, he really is a solid play. I know he's in high competition and high demand, but I wouldn't look past him.
I'll take the under. If we set it at 14.5%, I'll take the under. I'm pretty comfortable with that.
Okay. I'm going to write it down so we can remember. 14.5. See on the under. I'll take the over on Patrick Cantlay's. I'm just going to put in 30,000 lineups. Patrick Cantlay to boost the number. Right? Like, just imagine if you're like, yeah, like book it for like $100,000. I'd be like, okay. And I would enter 1 million lineups with Patrick Cantlay. Fudge the numbers. The $9,000 range. Small, little range. Lots to talk about. Cam Smith, Jordan Spieth, Will Zalatoris, Victor Hovland, Hideki Matsuyama, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Shane Lowry. That is it. These 9K ranges, Sia, you mentioned potentially starting here. I feel like they're getting smaller, and I feel like they're always the most interesting because the 10K range, there's very few question marks. The 9K range is like the next tier where you start to get a little bit concerned, but they're all great players.
That's right. And what's interesting about that is it's pretty arbitrary that they're making the 9K range as small as it is. I mean, obviously, if they wanted to, they could have put 2 or 3 more guys in there. And then you have all of a sudden you have Sung J M at let's say 9,000 or 9,100 because everybody gets pushed up a little bit, right? And then you have Cameron Young maybe at a flat 9,000 with Max Homa, that kind of thing. So I want everybody to realize that there is some, it is a little bit arbitrary that you have like these top end 8K guys that they're in the 8K range as it is. They could easily be in the 9K range, and then you'd all of a sudden be so much more comfortable playing them because you're grabbing a low end guy in the 9K range. So again, the margins are so small in terms of DraftKings deciding to put somebody like at 9,100 versus 8,800. So keep that in mind. I think these kind of ranges sort of swim together a little bit. And with that said, you know who I think is really interesting towards the top? I think a lot of people are going to play Cameron Smith regardless of his bad track record here. Yeah. But Jordan Spieth, I wonder if Jordan Spieth is going to get a lot of ownership. I for some reason, I think people don't think he's a good course fit here. I'm not sure they're going to believe that he's going to keep it in the fairway off the tee. I think he's a really interesting play if the ownership is down, because if he keeps it in the fairway, he's got all parts of his game operating. The approach game, the around the green game, the putter obviously can be an issue, but that might be minimized a bit here. So I think Jordan Spieth is a really interesting play. The other guy I really like is probably Shane Lowry, who's probably a bit underpriced. He's been keeping in the fairway, and he's been gaining across all metrics. Those are my 2 favorite in this range.
Yeah, Shane Lowry's been insane. We could talk about that in just a second. But Greg, the Jordan Spieth conversation is kind of interesting because he doesn't. There are so many of these courses that are staple courses on the PGA Tour that Jordan Spieth has an unbelievable record at. This is not one of them, but he's been very good. He's got, let's see, 4 top 20s in his last 5 starts. He has 6 top 20s in his 9 career starts. It's not bad. It's actually quite good, but it's not like you see at Pebble Beach or Augusta National or Colonial or all these other places in which Jordan Spieth is just a madman.
I couldn't agree with you more. And he really likes the golf course. He's talked about it before being one of his favorites out here. So I think Jordan is a phenomenal play this week. Now, the other thing that I find really interesting is in his whole career here, dating back to 2013, he's only lost strokes putting twice. So he's had some good success on the greens here. And it might be one of those venues where there's enough undulation and enough speed in the greens to really capture his attention. And it could be a great spot for him. So Jordan's my favorite play in this range. I wouldn't go to Cam Smith personally. I would definitely go to Jordan. I think I'm a little Will Zalatoris and Victor Hovland. They have potential for sure, but their short game might worry me a little bit, enough to stay away, especially when you have Jordan and then you have Hideki, Fitzpatrick, and Lowry. All 3 of those guys I think are very playable. They have good record. They're very. I really like all 3 of those guys.
Lowry over the last 50 rounds is the best. 1.9 strokes gained. That's the best of anyone in the $9,000 range or below. He's been that good, which Sia pointed out as well. He's gaining in distance. He's gaining in fairways hit. He's playing well coming in. He finished 6th here last year. There's just a lot to like. Greg, you said not on Cam Smith. Is it strictly because of this record, which is not good? It's 4 missed cuts, a 65th and a 68.
Well, I think there's also a reason for that record, right? And Cam Smith's struggle seems to be accuracy. He can get a little errant off the tee. He can hit some wild ones. And we said at the top of the show, The wild ones are punished here. So it's not just the fact that he has a bad record. There are some cases where you can look past that, but I think there's a clear enough reason where this could be worth staying away.
135th in driving accuracy this year for Cam Smith.
Yeah.
So you spray it, you find yourself in a little bit of trouble. I'm fairly partial to Hideki here. We've talked about that quite a bit. I think maybe the question is around Will Zalatoris. So he is kind of just in the middle of the pricing, which again, some people will opt to just pay more for Jordan Spieth, or they'll opt to go down to Hideki or Fitzpatrick. He's got 2 missed cuts in his last 3 starts. Now, the sandwich result in there was a runner-up finish at the PGA Championship, and he's been lights out besides that. What version of Will Zalatoris do we get this time around?
Well, and yeah, by the way, really lights out in really talented fields. You got the 2nd at the PGA, you got the 6th at the Masters, 5th at the WGC. So I think this is where Will Zalatoris typically rises. I think the fact that he's missed 2 cuts out of 3 probably keeps ownership down. And to your point, people likely pivot up to Smith or Spieth or down to maybe Hideki, certainly Lowry. And Zalatoris not really having much by way of experience here. I mean, it looks like he played in 2018, but that's about it. So I think he's probably going to get sort of marginalized here. And therefore, I think he's a pretty great play. I mean, I think if you started your lineup with Jordan Spieth and Will Zalatoris, you'd probably be pretty different from the field.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I want to talk about the 8K range, the 7s and the 6s. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. See, I'm going to start here with you on the $8,000 range, because you said something earlier in the show that you've actually created a lineup or two that start in the $8,000 range. And I have a little bit of a stat for you here. So I was just tracking this. Spoiler alert, I'm going to send this out in my newsletter this week. But in the 2020 golf season, guys who are priced in the $9,000 range have missed the cut 26.8% of the time. Guys that are priced in the $8,000 range have missed the cut 25.8% of the time. So that means golfers in the 8Ks have actually made the cut more frequently than golfers in the $9,000 range. Now, see, that could be a lot of things. It could be the depth of the tour. It could be fairly random. But, I mean, this season's been going on for 8 months. We've got a pretty decent sample size going on. I wonder if that's just the depth of the tour, inherently bad mispricing. Like, what do you think that could be?
It's probably a little bit of both. And just I mentioned it earlier, the sort of the arbitrariness of the pricing. I could make a very good argument that Max Homa, Cameron Young, and Sung J M belong in the $9,000 range. It's just you have to carve out pricing for each of these guys. And so everybody kind of falls in line, but that doesn't mean the pricing is accurate. But yeah, you're right. In terms of the depth of the field, we're really seeing that. Like guys like Davis Riley, guys like Cameron Young, Mito Pereira, they're all really good. And they're typically not in that 9K range, because where are you going to put the elite guys or the alleged elite guys? You have to put them up there. That's going to push these newcomers down. And here they are dominating tournaments. Like for the last, 3 to 6 weeks, all we talk about is Cameron Young and Mito Pereira and Davis Riley and all these guys that are contending with the Scotty Schefflers of the world. And they're all 8K almost all the time.
Okay, well, the $8,000 range starts with Sung J M and Cam Young, Max Homa, Davis Riley near the top. The middle is Daniel Berger and Corey Connors. Then we round it out with Joaquin Niemann, Abraham Answer, Keegan Bradley, and Mito Pereira. And Seamus Power, both down there at $8,000 flat. Greg, there's a lot going on here. We've got some ugly missed cuts. We've got some guys working through injuries. We've got guys who are trending upwards, guys that are trending downwards. What in the world do we do in the 8s?
Man, the challenge that I have in this is, what do we do with the guys that are just really hot young players right now, right? Where you don't have any course history. That's Davis Riley and Cameron Young. I'm really struggling with them. I think they're great. I think the course should really match up with them. What Cam Young has done of late has been nothing short of incredible. What Davis Riley has done of late has been really spectacular. I mean, his iron game has been on fire lately. So these two are really attractive, and I'm not sure going to a new golf course how how much to really like him. I probably would lean a little bit to Cam Young over Davis Riley. I'm not sure if that's fair. But then there are some other guys in a different bucket, like Sungjae Im has been really trended in the right direction. And I know that he doesn't have a great record here, but it could be a strong golf course for him. I mean, he's gained strokes around the green in 5 in a row, approach the green in 3 in a row, off the tee in 3 in a row. It's showing up in the finishes. I think he's a really, really interesting play. And then the other guy would be Max Homa, who really stands out. And so, again, I mean, Sungjae Im and Max Homa jump off. I feel very confident in both of them. What Max Homa's done with his ball striking has been really quite impressive. And I think that's going to play a large role here. He gained strokes around the green last week. He's gained strokes putting in his last 3. He could be and he has a nice record here. He played really well here last year. So I like Homa. I like Im, but then these young stars kind of give me a little question mark.
Yeah, the Sungjae Im train for me rolls on. I think he picked up right where he left off at the Zurich Classic after a month off. And he's been much better on bent grass as of late. Seems to be starting to figure out that surface. Okay, Sia, we've got a lot of questions and not a lot of answers in the $8,000 range. How can we start to figure this one out?
Well, first of all, I do like Sungjae Im and Max Homa as well, so I won't go into that. But I do want to point out, if because of the poor track record for Sungjae, if he does pick up steam as a result of being really good the last couple of weeks, and Rick, congrats to you because you were on that last week. And honestly, if he just had an average putter, he easily top 7s this thing. I mean, maybe better, I'm not sure, but he's been a tee to green.
Every guy I roster, if they just had an average putter, that's the story of my DFS career.
Or below average putter. I mean, he lost almost 3. You lose 1 stroke instead of 3, and it's a slightly different story from a DFS standpoint. So I do like Sungjae Im. I think he's going to be great tee to green, which I know we talked about as a pretty solid kind of overall metric for this course. If his ownership is even slightly high, though, because of the course history, I'll go ahead and pivot off. I'm only playing Sungjae if he's going to be relatively lower owned because I like so many other 8K guys, including Cameron Young, by the way, who last 24 rounds, he's first tee to green. He's first in par 4, 450 to 500 yards, which is going to take up a lot of the par 4s on this course. They tend to be longer. So he rates out really well on those longer par 4s. Tee to green, he's an absolute monster. Okay, 2 other guys I want to bring up. One is that other new kid on the block. I'm not going to bring up Davis Riley. He's on my list, but he's not high on my list. Mito Pereira has been spectacular with the ball striking, above average around the green, and can spike with the putter, as we know. But the kind of controversial guy I want to bring up is Daniel Berger. I intend to play Daniel Berger this week at 8,500. I think we're getting some value. I think people are kind of down on him. I mean, he barely made the cut. He made the cut on the number, and he didn't do much Saturday and Sunday. But the truth is, he kept it in the fairway, and the approach game was pretty great. It was just the putting that happened to be a pretty big problem for him. And on this course, I think maybe he can turn that around. And by the way, we're looking at it right now on RickRunGood. He lost 2 strokes putting at the Charles Schwab Challenge, which, by the way, believe it or not, was way better than what he lost at the PGA Championship. However, if you break that down by round, he gained in 2 of those 4 rounds putting. He had 2 basically bad days of putting and 2 good days of putting. And so I think if you just kind of look at that and at least he can gain with the putter in consecutive rounds potentially, with the ball striking and with the course fit in terms of him keeping it in the fairway, I think Berger is a really smart play, especially if the ownership isn't too high.
Yeah, rounds 1 and 3, he gained over 2 strokes putting combined, and then gave back 3 on Friday and another 1.25 on Sunday is the way that breaks down. Okay, Greg, well, if we think this is going to be kind of a tee to green thing, and we need somebody who's at least okay around the greens and someone who's actually putting much better as of late, Corey Connors is someone that I imagine for the first time in a long time is not going to be very popular. He had an incredibly ugly missed cut at the PGA Championship in which he lost 4 strokes on approach in 2 rounds, which is one of the worst approach performances of his career. How willing are you to quickly forgive Corey Connors?
Very, very willing. Now, he has had some struggles here approaching the green as well at the Memorial. In 2 of his 3 starts here, he's lost strokes approaching the green, sometimes significantly, but he's made all 3 cuts. And what I also like is he's gained strokes putting in all 3 starts here, which I find to be quite interesting. Reminds me of a Sony Open. So I'm very willing to forgive. The problem is, can I get off of Im and Homa, or can I get away from a Cam Young and go to Corey Connors? I do think there's a possibility to do it, but it he's probably on my list. He's probably 4th. He's probably 4th in my 8K range, but very willing to play.
I'm glad you mentioned Waialae because I could not remember the place. I knew there was a place that Corey Connors had like never lost strokes putting at.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember where it was, and it was Waialae, right? That's the spot.
Yeah. Sony. He's going to be Kyle's auto play in the Sony Open going forward.
Okay. Gents, the $7,000 range. Lots of them. Billy Horschel, Patrick Reed, Bryson DeChambeau, Matt Kuchar at the top. The bottom, Russell Knox, Stuart Sink, Lucas Herbert, Denny McCarthy. Some notables in between. Sia, here we go. Massive list of names. Let's figure out who we like.
Can I tell you why golf is weird?
Please.
Patrick Reed. I'm about to discuss Patrick Reed as a value at 7,900. And I just never, and I'm not even sure I'm right about this. I'm very uncomfortable recommending him, but I do think it's a value given his recent history, his very recent history, and his course history here. I mean, first of all, before the renovation, he was good here. But oh yeah, by the way, after the renovation, which of course was 2021, he was 5th here. So that was back when Patrick Reed still wasn't very good. If I recall last year at this time, I mean, he hasn't been good for about certainly well over a year, as far as I can recall. So the metrics from last week and the last couple of weeks have spoken to me a little bit. I do think he's in pretty good form. Obviously, it's a really small sample size, but given if you match the small sample size with the course history, I'm pretty comfortable playing Patrick Reed at 7,900.
I must confess this, and this is mostly Greg's fault because I've talked to Greg now like 3 times in the last 4 days, and I've been saying, well, Patrick Reed is washed. Actually, maybe he's not washed. Actually, maybe I'm turning the corner. Actually, I'm in. This morning, I made 2 bets for the U.S. Open. It was Daniel Berger and Patrick Reed. And
wow.
I want to just kind of buy low. I agree with Sia, Greg. I think we're seeing enough that if we believe around the green is going to be critical, if we look at the history around Muirfield Village, which is going back chronologically, a 5th, a 10th, 29th. His worst finish was a 57th. Then he had a T8 in 2016 and a T26 in 2015. I see it. I see it. So he's gone from completely washed up and dead in my books to back and alive in the matter of 5 days.
Yes. And look, at the start of last week, I was pretty high on him, and the reasons came to light again. He gained strokes on approach for the first time in a long time. Of significance at the PGA Championship. And then he did it again last week at the Charles Schwab Challenge. Now, we started to see signs of his swing coming around just after the match play. After the match play, he gained 4 strokes in a row, gained off the tee in 4 events in a row, which I think is a sign that things are coming back. It was mild, but things are coming back a little bit. And then you see the approach play start to kick in. And now things start kicking into gear. And when he is comfortable with his swing, now all the other reasons that we've played Patrick Reed in the past come back to life. The truth is his ball striking was so bad for a while, since July of last year, that he couldn't compete. He couldn't turn into Patrick Reed, the Captain America, the gritty grinder who's just going to try to, the bulldog, right? He couldn't do that because he couldn't hit the ball where he was looking. And now all of a sudden he's got a little confidence with his swing. And I think it plays a huge role. So I'm all over Patrick Reed again. I'm going right back to the well this week. I think the golf course is a great fit for him. And I think you're going to see him go out there and compete.
I hope you're right. Where else in the 7K range would you like to go, Greg?
I'm interested in Adam Scott. I like what he's done here. This is another guy. This is one of his favorite courses. He really relishes this opportunity. I'm not crazy about his recent form, but he's been driving the ball nicely. which I think could go a long way. So he has my interest. Chris Kirk, I think it's very fair to go back to the well on him. Maybe Sunday's round kind of keeps some people away from Chris Kirk, but he is an absolute play in my book. There are a couple of others that I'm lukewarm on, like Siwoo Kim and Aaron Wise and Keith Mitchell. But Anirban Lahiri, who I've really liked this year, I think this could be another good place to go back to him. What do you guys think about Lahiri?
Outside the miscut at the PGA Championship, and he's basically been on a roll. He had a runner-up finish here in 2017. He hasn't played it in each of the last 2 years. The invitational status has kind of kept him away. But when he played it earlier in his career, he at least had a bit of success. Sia, do you want to do the Bryson conversation now, or do you want to save it for a few minutes from now?
Well, I feel like we're going to waste the time because he's gonna withdraw like 5 minutes after we have the conversation. But let's have it now, so it's relevant right in this moment.
I think he plays this week.
All right.
But I would not bet I'd bet about $6 on that. I'm not that confident.
Well, let's assume he plays. What do you do?
Let's assume he plays, and I've got his results up. They are very ugly, but again, can you contribute or attribute these results to the injury? And if we think the injury is better, that's great. But I guess there's rust issues. But oh, by the way, he's won here. Like what? How do we even do this?
Well, if we're looking at a pie chart and we're looking at all the players that I'm playing in DFS this week, and Bryson represents the orange sliver, I shall tell you that there's no orange in my pie chart. No chance.
I would agree. He's an absolute fade. His ownership should be 0 for the week. It should be. I mean, what? There is a huge WD risk. Even if he starts, there's a huge WD risk. If he makes the cut, there's still a WD risk. It is extremely risky. I mean, Muirfield Village tends to have some thick rough. It doesn't seem like a great stop to come back to. And if he does play, that's great. But I don't expect to see a great performance by any means. I mean, rust is a huge factor. This isn't like he took 3 weeks off, so he's going to be rusty. He had surgery. You know that he hasn't been playing. He hasn't been able to play. So I'd be very worried.
Cheapest he's been in 3.5 years. Does that not no buy low situation?
Talk to me next week when that sale gets even better, and the week after that, and the week after that.
Oh man, I'm like very entitled. I mean, I guess the good news is if you were playing 10 lineups and you put Bryson in one of them, you would be overweight on the field.
That's true. I mean, it's an interesting game theory play, but that's the thing, though. Is he the only interesting game theory play? And I'm not like looking at every single player, but there's probably like 10 guys that are going to be super low ownership. And so the question is, are you going to use Bryson as one of those ownership leverage plays when you can probably use somebody who is at least in form to actually play 72 holes of golf?
I know. I just want to.
You need to then. That's the thing. It's like this DFS. You can do whatever you want. Put them in one lineup. You're overweight, like you said.
That is
I guess
true.
it won't be 0.
No, it'll be me. 0.1.
Exactly.
I think there's one other guy we got to talk about.
Cooch?
No. We have a drop for this. Ricky. You think Ricky's playable this week?
Yes.
I do too. I mean, I'm generally down on Ricky, but I think he's playable.
So
yeah,
here's the good signs right here. Right. So,
Yeah.
Okay, let's recap. The last 2 years, not good. It's like whack-a-mole, right? Some weeks he's great with the driver. Some weeks he's horrible. Some weeks he's great on approach. Some weeks he's hard. It's just whack-a-mole. Now what we're seeing is at least a sustained good run on approach. That's gaining in 8 of 10. Around the green, that's fine. 6 of 9. Putting, trying to come back. That's at least better than what we've seen. And it's resulted in a couple of top 25s. And then you add in this right here. Memorial's been awesome to him. He's got The last 5 years, he's got 4 top 15 finishes. And then you throw another runner-up in 2010. It's been a really good place for him.
I think very playable. The other thing I notice is he putts really well here. He's had great success on the greens here, and it might be a Jordan Spieth thing where Ricky talks a lot about seeing the putts, seeing the lines, how important that is for him, and sometimes he's just not seeing it. And I wonder if with the slopes around Muirfield, if that will really help him see the line, see the things that he likes to do when he putts. I think they kind of come to life, much like Jordan Spieth here.
The other one I was mentioning was Kuchar, who's got 6 straight cuts made, and this is like by far his best golf course. And when you compare it to the rest of the field, like anybody who's played more than 20 rounds here, Kuchar's the best in the field. So
yeah, I like Kuchar. I do want to point out, because Greg mentioned him, Aaron Wise, I think this is probably a good course to be playing him. Good showing last year as well. Gained in all metrics and almost 7 tee to green with 2.5 with the putter to a T9 finish. So gaining 2.5 with the putter for Aaron Wise is great. But the point there is tee to green, he was great. So I think Wise at 7,500 is a value. Another 2 guys I want to point out, because I think they let people down last week, specifically Tom Hoge. I think a lot of people are just going to be off him because he a missed cut last week. I mean, he was great before then, but he does have plenty of missed cut equity, as we can see here on this board. I think he actually grades out really well here with the approach game in particular. I think he is at 7,400, a pretty decent value. Again, this is a super talented field, but do I think he can make the cut and do some damage on Saturday and Sunday? I think the answer is yes. And the last guy is CT Pan, who made the cut, but had a pretty terrible Saturday and Sunday. I think he grades out really well here too. He's made the cuts here, but nothing impressive from a finishing position standpoint. But I do like him, especially with the long irons as well.
Yeah, he's been finding a lot of weekends. Certainly has the bread man, CT Pan, $6,000 range. Top, Aaron Rai, Joel Damon, Ryan Palmer, Scott Stallings, Troy Merritt. The min price golfers for this week, and remember, it's only 120. Wow, there's a lot of them. So Sam Ryder just got in this field. He is the min price. Ryan Brem, John Pock is in this field. David Lingmerth. Are these guys actually in the field? I might have the alternates still in here. No, I think these guys are actually in the field.
Yeah, Lingmerth is in the field, former champ.
Curtis Luck is in. How did Curtis Luck get in this field?
Sam Ryder at a flat 6K.
How did these guys get in the field? No, this is definitely the field. Because usually what I do is I load in like the committed field and the alternates. But at this point, they all have been assigned salaries, so this is the field, so they're in. Boy, what do you see, Greg? Anything of note?
Well, not much interest in the guys you mentioned there, but I do think there are some. I'll start with my favorite. I think my favorite play in this range is, and this is bizarre because the approach play has been terrible, but I really kind of like Patrick Rogers. Well, the approach play has been terrible at the Memorial, but the finishing positions haven't been. And he's done pretty well on approach of late. He's gained in 5 in a row, 3 in a row off the tee. It makes for 3 in a row ball striking, 3 in a row putting. Short game is a concern, but again, I go back to what he does around here, and it's pretty reasonable. Tied 18th in 2020, tied 8th in 2019. Those are really the 2 highlights for me. But he's putted well here. His short game has been a little better here. I'm interested. And then the other guy who I'm very interested in at the same price is Kevin Streelman, who I think has been playing, who plays well here. And he's been playing some pretty decent golf of late. It hasn't been great, but I think it's enough for me to play a Kevin Streelman in this at 6,800.
Gains off the tee regularly, which is via the accuracy. Yeah. Although he's not super, super short. He's like bottom 40th percentile or something like that.
Yeah. And look, I think that can be this golf course plays a little shorter than its yardage. I mean, the cool thing about this design is almost every shot is downhill, which is hard to imagine. But it also, on the front 9, there are not a lot of driver holes. You're hitting maybe a couple. And for Kevin Streelman, maybe he hits more. But that accuracy, I think, can really put him in a pretty good position to make the cut. And I think he's shown the ability to hang around over the weekend.
See, yeah, the 6K range is yours.
A few guys I like. Lucas Glover at 6,500.
Me too.
He lost 6 strokes with the putter last week, which honestly for him isn't even that bad, which
I was
is
gonna
hilarious to say.
Yeah.
With that said, again, if you think this is a course where bad putters may do well, that really bodes well for him because the approach and off the tee game have been very good, and he can be okay around the green as well. So I do like Lucas Glover at 6,500. Nate Lashley is interesting to me because I liked him last week, and now he's even way. I think it was 6,900 last week, and he's 6,200 this week. So I think that's interesting as a just a kind of a punt play. Adam Svensson, who was really peppering fairways and greens last week. We know the putter is usually a problem for him, but he's another guy at 6,300 that it's fully in punt range. And I got to say, the guy you just highlighted a couple minutes ago, Rick, seems like a steal. And of course, that's Brendan's steal.
I was trying to subliminally get it to Greg's attention. He said, the guy, my favorite guy in this range, and I clicked Brendan Steele's name to try to like pre-guess who he was going to say and also like pass the message to him. We were not connected there.
No, he is third on my list. If you're looking at my notes, and he's definitely there. The only reason he's third on my list is pricing. He's a little bit cheaper down at 6,600, but I'm all in on him. He absolutely is a great play.
So he had this really bizarre, horrible stretch of golf from Sony to the Honda where he missed the cut in every single one of those events, 5 straight. Then he started to figure it out again, got back to his DNA, which is being a great ball striker. So he was +7 in the ball striking categories at the API. He was +11 at the Players Championship. He was even at the Valero. Then him and Keegan went and finished 4th at the Zurich. We don't have the breakdown for that. And then he was basically +4 at the Wells Fargo, and then +9, 9.5 at the PGA Championship. So that is very much the blueprint. He is a horrible putter, and everyone knows it. But that's the hope, is that he can get around here, tee to green, and roll enough putts in.
Yeah, and he and Glover kind of fit that same mold. Now, we're not looking for guys that are horrible putters. It just happens to be the things that we are looking for when you get down into the 6K range. Well, they don't marry you can't marry that kind of ball striking with good putting. You're not going to be in the 6K range.
Right. If they were, their names would be like John Rahm, not Lucas Glover. Right. They wouldn't be this price.
Right. So you got to take a risk. I'm much more comfortable, especially on a venue like this. I'd rather see the green on RickRunGood.com. I want to see the green on the left side. And if the most right column is red, I am much more comfortable with that. So, and the tee to green play has been great for him too. The short game has been a little spotty, but not terrible.
Yeah, I want to point out Jonathan Vegas too. I mean, he doesn't really seem like a great course fit. He hasn't been peppering fairways like he normally does. And the around the green game is bad, especially if you're looking at it from a modeling standpoint. But if you actually look at his last 4 tournaments, he's gained around the green in 3 of the last 4. So maybe there's an uptick there. Yeah, right. So that's actually pretty good. I mean, obviously he lost 3 at the PGA Championship, but at the Byron Nelson, Wells Fargo, and Valero, he gained around the green pretty significantly. So it's somebody to consider. His game has been a little off. The ball striking is usually better, but at 6,700, I think he's probably worthy of taking a chance on.
Okay. I got one more before. I know we got a big segment to get to here.
Grand finale, yeah.
One more guy. 6,300, probably as low as I'm looking. Kurt Kitayama.
Oh, I knew it. I tried to click it before you said it.
Yeah, I think back to what Sia said early in the show about who has what it takes to not only make the cut, but put together 4 good rounds. And I think Kitayama has some really good upside. He's plenty long. His iron play, although he lost the last 2 weeks, has been really good of late. He's another one of those guys with the red putter column. And he gained strokes around the green at the Charles Schwab. So I'm wondering if Kurt Kitayama is a good value play. I'm guessing he's not going to be very highly owned because there was a hot streak and it cooled off, and I think that'll keep people away. But I think he has, in this group down here, I think he has maybe the best chance to contend in this event.
Yeah, he's a grinder. He's a bulldog. He'll go out there and won't back down. Also at 6,300, Harry Higgs just withdrew. Don't play him. He got replaced by Kramer Hickok. So I will update all of that. Just happened a bit ago. Okay, well, before we get to the grand finale, which is Sia Nejad and all the narrative lineups that have come in this week, remember the fan vote form for the one and done is in the link in the description. So go ahead, vote now, because we're going early on Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. So your picks got to be in by then. All right, Sia. This segment has been growing. John Markowski's seeing challenges from far and wide to his throne. Do we have anything to remove the crown from John's head this week?
It's a good question. I mean, maybe we should have some sort of post-show vote on it, but Markowski's is really good. And I think we have the graphic to put up. If we don't, oh, here we go. Okay, so we've got 3 right here, which includes Markowski's, which is great. Okay, so I'll start with his. It's on the far right. At Sia Nejad Memorial, Ohio, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Here are some lyrics. Joaquim, I'm starting with the knee man in the mirror. Of course, that's a Michael Jackson song. Sungjae, Imagine All the People. Cam, Only the Good Die Young. Luke, Your Kiss is on my list. Brandon, On a Steel Horse Ride. Lucas, I Want to Be Your Glover. Not bad.
I'm not a big music guy, but I'm still.
We know
this.
We've talked about this, Rick.
Yes.
But I know most of these songs too, which is great.
Yeah, the Lucas, you could go Lucas, I Want to Be Your Glover, or 50 Ways to Lucas Glover. I think that one's pretty good too. Paul Simon, shout out. Okay, so the Model Maniac, Memorial Field equals stars equals Star Wars. Luke Skywalker list, Cameron Young Padawan, excuse me. Tom Hoagie 1 Kenobi, that's great. CH3PO, that's even better. Anirban Solo Lahiri is excellent. I think this might be like the winner this week. Princess Cantalea, amazing. May the first cut force be with you. That's excellent.
Strong.
Right, these are 2 bad narrative. I've never seen Star Wars. Can I admit that? So I don't get any of these.
Well, they're really good. Okay. And I've only seen like the first 3 Star Wars from like 3 decades ago. So I'm sort of on that.
What was that, like 10, 9, and 8 or something?
CH3PO.
Yeah.
Good. I like that.
That's pretty great. And then speaking of movies, we got a Strokes Gained narrative. Sounds like a James Bond villain. Bryson DeChambeau, Harris English, Brandon Steele, Eric Van Rooyen, Martin Laird, and Patrick Reed. I like that he put Strokes Gained narrative on there. If you click on Strokes Gained narrative, you see all the narratives that anybody's ever posted.
Yeah, you should
put that on there.
Yeah, that's a hashtag, Strokes Gained narrative from Chris. So that's smart. That will allow us to sift through these much more efficiently. Okay. I think there's 4, right? Yeah,
we have a couple more. Eric K, who I believe, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, he's with CBS in some capacity, right? Gotta go with a best.
We love it. This is the best.
Oh yeah, this is by far the best one, obviously. Gotta go with a best damn lineup in the land, Buckeyes squad. Keep in mind, this tournament takes place in Dublin, Ohio. Lanto, Archie Griffin, Chris Kirk Herbstreet, Cameron Chase Young, Hell to the Commanders is the hashtag there. Mackenzie Keel Elliott Hughes, Jason Ryan Day, C. Woody Hayes Kim. That's excellent.
Mackenzie Keel Elliott Hughes.
Oh, there you go. I'm sorry. I messed that up. Mackenzie Elliott Hughes. Of course.
Mackenzie I can't even say it again. Mackenzie Elliott Hughes.
Wow. That's excellent.
Yes. Phenomenal.
And it's geographically, right. It's geographically relevant as well. So I think we have 2 more that have. Oh no, excuse me. We have John Halsbauer, otherwise known as PGA Tout, who wants to chime in here. Milkshake flavors. He has the SG narrative hashtag, which is awesome. These are all milkshakes. Choco List. Luke List making a lot of these narrative lineups.
Yeah, cookies. Is a good one for puns.
Yes, Cookies and Joaquin. That's excellent.
That's
Eric Vanilla Royan.
Pretty good.
Anner Banana Lahiri making a lot of references. Streb Berry, Shamrock Shane Lowry.
Those are good. I like the
very strong.
Have you guys had these milkshakes? Everything I hear about this event is these milkshakes.
No, but I really want to try them. And so one day I hope to get there and try them. I love a good milkshake, but I rarely have one.
It seems dangerous. I would drink 40 of these that week.
Is your favorite on this list cookies and Joaquin in terms of actual taste? Like, I think that would be good. Cookies and cream.
Yeah, I like chocolate and like chocolate and peanut butter is probably my favorite
Yes.
flavor combination.
It's not on the list. It's not on the Choco list. That's cheating.
No.
We'll have to figure that one out. Okay, what else we got?
So we have two more. I know we're taking a lot of time here, but so many came in. I just want to give everybody the respect of kind of putting these up here. I'm sure we'll get even more and more as the weeks go on. We won't put every single one up here.
They can one hashtag pound sand or two, just like fast forward to the end. Like it's who cares? It's all good.
Right. And okay, so these actually have Memorial Day in mind. So me and Oracle kind of sent these at the same time, which is really interesting. At Nejad, let's happy Memorial Day narrative this bad boy. George Patton Kazire, Jason D. Day, John Ramparts Red Glare, which is excellent.
Wow.
Happy Memorial Davis Riley.
Wow.
Daniel Battle of Hamburger Hill. That's great.
Is Hamburger Hill a real thing?
Yeah, Hamburger Hill is like a battle, like where a battle took place. I can't remember in which war. Maybe Oracle can tell us on Twitter. Stuart, don't sink my battleship. I think my work here is done, says Oracle at T.
Very good. Very good.
Hold on. That's great. The Battle of Hamburger Hill, May 13th to 20th, 1969, in the Vietnam War. It was, oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. I did not know that. That's Oracle. That is, those are good. I like those.
Yeah, those are excellent. Mine doesn't really have much by way of wordplay. It's just kind of an ode to some of the prominent generals and people in the United States military. Colin Morikawa Powell, of course, that's the late, great Colin Powell, who just passed away, unfortunately, within the last 12 months. William McRaven Zalatoris, who actually was a Navy SEAL, and he was a former Navy SEAL when he actually put together Operation, I believe it's called Operation Neptune, which was the operation that the Navy SEAL 6 team went down and took out Osama bin Laden some time ago. Omar Keegan Bradley, U.S. Army general, I believe served in Vietnam or World War II, I believe. George Patton Kazire, another World War II general. Douglas Gim MacArthur, another U.S. Army World War II general. And of course, my favorite, the man who left the NFL and a guaranteed contract for millions of dollars, by the way, in the actual prime of his career. He played for the Arizona Cardinals. He went to school at Arizona State University. His name is Pat Tillman, and he is a true hero in my book, as are all of these guys, by the way. But Pat Tillman is more sort of relevant to me because this happened while I was, still alive, whereas these other guys weren't fighting when I was alive. So Pat Perez Tillman is the last guy on this list.
Pat Perez Tillman, you are still alive, Sia. All of this is happening right now while you're still alive.
Well, I'm just saying when Omar Bradley was fighting and George Patton were fighting, I was not born yet. So when Pat Tillman did his thing, I was.
I'm proud of these. These are very good.
Very good.
Excellent.
I agree.
Excellent.
Bravo, everyone.
Hold on, let's get out ahead of this for next week because we're deep in this at this point. So next week is RBC Canadian. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of Canada references, maybe some like maple syrup stuff. I don't know. Wherever else we can go with this, that's going to be a fun one.
So I do want to say one other thing. Somebody, and I forwarded this to you guys. I texted it to you. I don't want to read it because we have too many narrative lineups, but I'm going to post it on Twitter. And maybe someday when we have an extra, like literally 2 minutes, I'm going to read it, just not now. Scott McCreery at AHS Chargers Golf sent a short story which had a play on words, which included about 20 PGA Tour golfers' names. And it's really, really good. So look out for that. I'm going to read it on the first cut when we have maybe a little bit more time, but I'm certainly going to post it on Twitter too. He put a lot of time into this.
Do you think this will evolve, Greg, to be like, okay, here are some poems, here are some short stories, here are some essays, here are some novels. We could put a whole book together of all of the first cut narrative.
Yeah, we're gonna need a literature section in the store.
First cut library.
How about
library?
A song. Somebody could like put a song out there. Like what are they called? The Golf Boys, when Bubba Watson and Ricky and
yes,
sing.
The guy who wrote the second Golf Boys song, his name is Matt Carney. I had him on my podcast. He's a great guy. And he wrote the second Golf Boys version 2.0.
If you all want to take this to the next level, drop some lyrics and some background music and let's see what happens. I think this is fun.
Wow. I love it. Sia, we won't put you on the spot for first round leaders because we want you to see tee times. So we'll assume you'll tweet those out for us. Is that correct?
Yep. Sounds good. Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Well, Sia Nejad can be found on Twitter at Sia Nejad. Big thanks to producer Troy doing all the hard work behind the scenes. Greg DuCharme available on Twitter at The Real GFD. And you can find me at RickRunGood. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.